I got fired hours after winning Employee of the Year, so I took their biggest client with me. The spotlight felt warm on my face as I walked across the stage, my heels clicking against the polished floor of the grand ballroom. 8 years at Sterling Marketing Group, and finally, I was holding the crystal trophy that read, Employee of the Year, Avery Monroe. Avery has consistently exceeded expectations, Mr. Peterson, our CEO, announced to the crowd of 200 employees. Her client retention rate is an impressive 98%, and she's personally responsible for bringing in over $3.2 million in new business this year alone. I smiled and waved, catching sight of my boyfriend Noah in the audience, beaming with pride. Next to him, my best friend and coworker Jenna was practically bouncing in her seat, giving me enthusiastic thumbs up. "I'm honored to receive this award," I said into the microphone, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "But I want to thank the clients who trust us with their brands, especially those who've become more than clients. They've become partners." As I said those words, I caught a glimpse of Mr. Halgrim, our VP, in the back of the room. His smile looked forced, almost painful. Something about his expression made my stomach twist, but I pushed the feeling away. "Here's to many more years of building something great together," I concluded, raising the trophy. The applause was thunderous, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was somehow an ending rather than a celebration. I had no idea how right I was. After the ceremony, I was surrounded by coworkers offering congratulations and fake smiles. The kind of smiles people give when they're genuinely happy for you, but also secretly wondering why it wasn't them up there. "You totally deserved this," Jenna said, pulling me into a hug. 8 years of putting in 60-hour weeks and never taking credit when things went right. "And always taking blame when things went wrong," Noah added, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. "I'm so proud of you, babe." But as the evening wore on, I noticed something strange. The senior executives were avoiding me. Mr. Halgrim had disappeared entirely, and the other VPs who usually kissed up to award winners were nowhere to be seen. "Where is everyone?" I asked Jenna as we stood by the dessert table. "What do you mean?" "The big bosses. Usually they're all over the Employee of the Year winner, talking about promotions and new opportunities." Jenna frowned, looking around the room. "Now that you mention it, that is weird. Mr. Halgrim looked like he was attending a funeral during your speech. You noticed that too?" "Hard to miss. He looked like you'd just stolen his lunch money." A chill ran down my spine as I remembered something from 3 weeks ago. I'd been in the break room when I overheard Mr. Halgrim on the phone. "She's getting too close to the clients. They trust her more than they trust the company. That's a problem we need to solve." At the time, I'd assumed he was talking about someone else. Now I wasn't so sure. "Jenna," I said quietly, "I think something's about to happen." "What kind of something?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a calendar invite for 9 a.m. Monday morning. The subject line made my blood run cold. "Staff restructuring meeting, confidential." I spent the weekend trying to convince myself I was being paranoid. Noah took me out for a celebratory dinner Saturday night, but I could barely taste my food. "You're being crazy," he said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "They just gave you Employee of the Year. Companies don't fire their best performers. They do if their best performers are seen as threats." "Threats to what?" "Control." Mr. Halgrim has always been weird about my relationship with Melanie Drew. Melanie was the CEO of our biggest client, Drew Cosmetics. Over the past 3 years, I'd managed their account, and we'd developed what I thought was a professional friendship. She often asked for me specifically, and had even mentioned that my strategies had increased their market share by 23%. "Maybe she appreciates good work," Noah suggested. "Or maybe she appreciates someone who actually listens to her, instead of talking down to her, like most of the men at Sterling do." Sunday evening, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my laptop. Almost without thinking, I started backing up files from my work computer. Not client files. I wasn't going to steal anything. But the marketing frameworks I'd developed, the client communication templates I'd created, the strategic approaches that had made me so successful. "What are you doing?" Noah asked, looking over my shoulder. "Probably nothing," I said. "But if tomorrow goes the way I think it's going to go, I want to make sure I keep the work I created. Avery, you're scaring me. I'm scaring myself, I admitted. As I uploaded files to my personal cloud storage, I thought about something Melanie had said to me just last month. Avery, if you ever decide to leave Sterling, don't go too far. Good people are hard to find. At the time, I thought it was just a compliment. Now I wondered if it was something more. Monday morning arrived with gray skies that matched my mood. I got to the office at 7:30 a.m., 2 hours early, and spent the time organizing my desk and making sure all my client files were up to date. You're here early, Jenna said, appearing at my cubicle with coffee. Nervous about your meeting? Terrified, I admitted. Want me to wait around? I can pretend to be working late if you need backup. Thanks, but I think this is something I need to face alone. At exactly 9 a.m., I knocked on the conference room door. Mr. Halgrim was sitting at the head of the table with Patricia from HR and someone I didn't recognize, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd stepped out of a corporate law firm. Avery, please sit down, Mr. Halgrim said, not bothering to look up from his papers. I sat across from them, my Employee of the Year trophy still sitting on my desk just 50 feet away. We'll get straight to the point, Mr. Halgrim continued. Sterling Marketing Group is undergoing a restructuring and unfortunately, your position has been eliminated. The words hit me like a physical blow. I'm sorry, what? Effective immediately, your employment with Sterling is terminated. Patricia will walk you through the paperwork. But I just won Employee of the Year on Friday. Mr. Halgrim finally looked at me, and his smile was cold. Business needs change, Avery. I'm sure you understand. Patricia slid a folder across the table. Your final paycheck includes 2 weeks severance. You'll need to return your laptop and building access card today. I stared at the folder, my mind reeling. 8 years of perfect performance reviews, record-breaking client retention, and an Employee of the Year award, and they were firing me on a Monday morning like I was some kind of problem employee. But as the shock wore off, something else took its place. Clarity. They weren't firing me because I was a bad employee. They were firing me because I was too good at my job, and that made them nervous. I understand, I said quietly, standing up. I'll clear out my desk. News travels fast in an open office, and by the time I returned to my desk with a cardboard box, everyone knew what had happened. The whispers followed me as I packed 8 years of my professional life into a container that had previously held printer paper. This is insane, Jenna hissed, appearing at my side. They can't fire you. You're the best account manager they have. Apparently they can, and they did. But why? It makes no sense. I lowered my voice. Remember what I said about getting too close to clients? I think Mr. Halgrim was worried that I had more influence with them than he did. So he fired you? That's the solution? He probably thinks the clients will just transfer their loyalty to the company. He doesn't understand that business relationships are personal. As I packed my desk photos, I noticed something tucked under my keyboard, a business card I'd forgotten about. Melanie Drew's personal card, the one she'd given me at our last lunch meeting. Call me if you ever want to grab coffee, she'd said. I mean it. You're the kind of person I like having in my network. I slipped the card into my purse and continued packing. What are you going to do? Jenna asked. I'm going to figure out what comes next, I said. But first, I'm going to take the rest of the week to process this. As security escorted me out of the building, I saw Mr. Halgrim watching from his office window. He looked satisfied, like he'd just solved a problem that had been bothering him for months. If only he knew that he'd just created a much bigger problem than the one he thought he'd solved. I spent Tuesday in my pajamas, alternating between rage and disbelief. Noah had taken the day off to be with me, bringing me coffee and letting me vent about the injustice of corporate politics. I can't believe they fired you right after giving you an award, he said for the 10th time. It's like giving someone a birthday cake and then stealing their bike. The award was probably just to make themselves feel better about what they were planning to do. Wednesday, I forced myself to shower and get dressed. I was updating my LinkedIn profile when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Avery? This is Melanie Drew. I hope you don't mind me calling your personal number. I got it from your email signature. My heart started racing. Hi, Melanie. How are you? I'm confused, actually. I called Sterling this morning to discuss our Q4 campaign, and they told me you no longer work there. They transferred me to someone named Brad, who had no idea what I was talking about regarding our October launch. I closed my eyes. I was let go on Monday. What? Why? They said it was restructuring, but honestly, I think it was because Mr. Halgrim felt threatened by my client relationships. There was a long pause. Avery, can we have lunch? Today, if possible. There's something I want to discuss with you. Of course. Where would you like to meet? How about that little cafe near your old office? Le Bernardin on 5th Street, 1 o'clock? I'll be there. After hanging up, I stared at my phone. Melanie Drew wanted to have lunch with me. The CEO of Sterling's biggest client wanted to meet with their fired account manager. Noah looked up from his laptop. Who was that? Melanie Drew. She wants to have lunch. The client you were telling me about? Yeah. She found out I was fired and wants to talk. That's good, right? Maybe she'll put in a word for you, help you get your job back. I thought about the tone in Melanie's voice, the way she'd said, "There's something I want to discuss." I don't think she wants to help me get my job back, I said slowly. I think she might want to offer me a new one. Le Bernardin was busy with the usual lunch crowd, but I spotted Melanie immediately. She was sitting at a corner table, scrolling through her phone with the focused intensity that made her one of the most successful CEOs in the cosmetics industry. Avery. She stood up and hugged me like we were old friends rather than former business associates. You look great. I love that blouse. Thank you. You look amazing as always. We ordered our food and made small talk for a few minutes, but I could tell Melanie had something specific on her mind. So, she said finally, Sterling's restructuring. That's what they called it? That's what Mr. Halgrim said. Interesting, because from my perspective, they just restructured away the only person at that company who actually understood my brand. I felt a flush of pride. That's very kind of you to say. It's not kindness, it's business truth. Avery, in 3 years of working together, you've never once tried to sell me something I didn't need. You've never pushed a campaign that didn't align with my vision. And you've actually listened when I told you what wasn't working. That's just good account management. No, that's rare account management. Do you know how many agencies have tried to convince me that I don't understand my own customers? I laughed. Too many, I'm guessing. Way too many. Which brings me to why I wanted to have lunch. Melanie leaned forward, her expression turning serious. Avery, what would you say if I told you I was thinking about ending my contract with Sterling? My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I'd say that would be a very expensive decision. Not as expensive as continuing to work with people who clearly don't value their best talent. Melanie, you can't make business decisions based on personnel issues at your agency. Can't I? She smiled. Avery, who do you think Drew Cosmetics has a relationship with? Sterling Marketing Group or you? The question hung in the air between us. I knew the answer, but saying it out loud felt dangerous. I think, I said carefully, that good business relationships are built between people, not companies. Exactly, which is why I want to offer you something. I want to discuss working together, Melanie said simply. Not immediately, but potentially in the future, when our current contracts allow. I stared at her. Working together how? Our contract with Sterling expires in 4 months. We've been discussing renewal, but recent events have made us reconsider our options. What about Sterling? You have a long-standing relationship with them. We have a business relationship that's become increasingly unsatisfactory. The account management has been inconsistent, and frankly, you were the only person there who truly understood our brand. My mind was spinning. Melanie, even if your contract expires, I can't just start a consulting business overnight. There are legal requirements, business setup, competitive bidding processes. I understand the complexities. That's why I'm talking to you now. 4 months before any decision needs to be made. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. This is a consultant who helps marketing professionals transition to independent practice. She handles all the legal and business setup requirements. You've thought this through. I've been thinking about it since I heard about your termination. Avery, you have a non-compete agreement with Sterling, don't you? Yes, but my lawyer thinks it's unenforceable. Think isn't the same as no. You'll need that resolved before we could work together. Legal clarity is essential for any business relationship. The weight of what Melanie was suggesting hit me. You're offering to wait 4 months while I figure out my legal situation and set up a business? I'm offering to consider a different approach to our marketing needs when our current contract expires. What you do with that information is up to you. But there would be a competitive bidding process, right? You couldn't just hire me directly. Any procurement decision would follow proper procedures, but having a preferred vendor who understands our brand would certainly influence how we structure the bidding requirements. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at a future I'd never imagined. Melanie, this is incredibly generous, but there are so many variables. Legal issues, business setup, competitive pressure. Which is why we're having this conversation now instead of in 4 months. You have time to explore your options properly. As she prepared to leave, Melanie said something that stuck with me. Avery, great client relationships outlast corporate structures. The question is whether you want to build something that belongs to you. That evening, Noah and I sat at our kitchen table with Melanie's business card and my laptop, researching what it would actually take to start a consulting business. This is overwhelming, I said, looking at the list of requirements. Business license, professional liability insurance, legal entity formation, non-compete resolution, tax setup. How long does all this take? Noah asked. The business consultant Melanie recommended says 3 to 6 months minimum, assuming my non-compete can be resolved. That's a long time to be unemployed. I know, I'm going to need to find some kind of interim work while I figure this out. I opened my laptop and started making a realistic timeline. Step 1. Hire a lawyer to challenge the non-compete agreement. That could take 2 to 4 months depending on whether Sterling fights it. What if they do fight it? Then it goes to court, which could take 6 months to a year, and cost more money than I have. So you need a backup plan. I need a backup plan, a legal strategy, and enough savings to survive several months without income. Over the next week, I met with 3 different employment lawyers. 2 of them thought my non-compete was unenforceable, but all 3 warned that Sterling could still sue me and force expensive litigation. Even if you win, defending a lawsuit costs $50,000 to $100,000, one lawyer explained. Some companies use litigation as intimidation, even when they know they'll lose. So what do you recommend? We send Sterling a formal letter explaining why your non-compete is unenforceable and giving them 30 days to respond. If they don't contest it, you're clear. If they do, we'll know what we're dealing with. I also met with the business consultant Melanie had recommended. Jennifer Walsh was a former marketing executive who'd helped dozens of professionals transition to independent practice. The legal setup is straightforward, she explained, but the business development is more complex. You'll need competitive rates, service offerings, contract templates, accounting systems, and marketing materials. How do other people handle the transition period? Most of my clients do freelance work for 6 to 12 months while building their client base. You can't just open a consulting firm and expect clients to appear immediately. Even with a potential client like Melanie Drew? Especially with a high-profile client, you'll need to prove you can deliver results before anyone commits to significant contracts. By the end of the week, I had a realistic timeline, 6 months minimum to become legally and operationally ready for independent consulting, assuming everything went smoothly. The question was whether I could afford to wait that long, and whether Melanie would still be interested when I was finally ready. I called Melanie at 9 a.m. sharp the next morning. I accept, I said as soon as she answered. I was hoping you'd say that. When can you start? How soon do you need me? Yesterday. But I'll settle for next Monday if you can make it work. I can make it work. We spent the next hour going over details. Melanie would send me a formal contract by end of day. I would handle all strategic planning, campaign development, and execution for Drew Cosmetics' marketing initiatives. I would have a monthly budget of $150,000 to work with external vendors and contractors. One more thing, Melanie said before we hung up. I mentioned your name to Rebecca Martinez yesterday. She's very interested in talking with you about Natural Beauty Solutions rebranding project. You already talked to her? Word travels fast in our industry, especially when someone talented becomes available. Rebecca's been unhappy with her current agency for months. After hanging up, I sat in my home office, which up until this moment had just been Noah's art space, and tried to process what had just happened. I was now a business owner. In less than a week, I'd gone from fired employee to independent entrepreneur. My phone rang again. This time it was Jenna. Avery, something weird is happening at work. What kind of weird? Mr. Halgrim called an emergency meeting this morning. Apparently, Drew Cosmetics sent a formal letter yesterday afternoon saying they're not renewing their contract. My heart started racing. They did? The letter said something about strategic realignment and seeking marketing partners who better align with their company values. Mr. Halgrim looked like he was going to throw up. What did he say in the meeting? He said it was a temporary setback and that the team needed to focus on retaining other clients. But Avery, Drew Cosmetics is 40% of our revenue. If they walk, people are going to get laid off. I felt a stab of guilt, followed immediately by a surge of satisfaction. Maybe they should have thought about that before they fired their best account manager. Maybe they should have. Jenna agreed. But Avery, rumor has it that other clients are asking questions too. Apparently, someone has been making phone calls. I smiled. Good for them. Maybe it's time for Sterling to learn that loyalty goes both ways. Over the next 3 days, I threw myself into setting up Monroe Marketing Solutions. Business license filed online. Business bank account opened. Professional liability insurance purchased. Simple website built using a template Noah helped me customize. But the real work was happening behind the scenes. Rebecca Martinez called Tuesday afternoon. Melanie Drew spoke very highly of you. I'd love to discuss Natural Beauty Solutions Q1 campaign strategy. Wednesday brought a call from James Park at Lux Skincare. I understand you're taking on new clients. We're looking for fresh perspective on our anti-aging line launch. By Thursday, I had 3 potential clients and more work than I could handle alone. I think I need to hire people, I told Noah over dinner. That was fast. Melanie wasn't kidding when she said word travels in their industry. Apparently, there's been a lot of frustration with the big agencies. What kind of frustration? The usual stuff. Account managers who don't listen, strategies that prioritize agency awards over client results, creative that looks impressive in presentations but doesn't actually sell products. My phone rang. It was Jenna, and she sounded panicked. Avery, you need to know what's happening here. What's going on? Natural Beauty Solutions just canceled their contract, so did Lux Skincare. Mr. Halgrim is freaking out. He's called 3 emergency meetings today, and rumor has it he's hiring a private investigator to figure out who's been poaching clients. A private investigator? He thinks someone is actively trying to destroy Sterling. He's convinced there's some kind of conspiracy. I almost laughed. Mr. Halgrim couldn't conceive of a world where clients left because they were dissatisfied. In his mind, the only explanation was sabotage. Jenna, has anyone mentioned my name? Not directly, but Avery, I think you should be careful. Mr. Halgrim is desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. After hanging up, I looked at Noah. I think Sterling is about to implode. Because they lost a few clients, because they lost the wrong clients, and because their VP is too arrogant to understand why. Friday afternoon, I was in my home office reviewing campaign concepts for Drew Cosmetics when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Mr. Halgrim standing on my front porch, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I opened the door, keeping the chain latch engaged. Hello, Richard. Avery, we need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. You're stealing my clients. I'm not stealing anything. I'm working with clients who chose to work with me. His face was red with anger and exhaustion. You signed a non-compete agreement when you started at Sterling. What you're doing is illegal. Actually, it isn't. I've had a lawyer review my employment contract. The non-compete clause is unenforceable because it's overly broad and would prevent me from working in my chosen profession. You think you're so smart, don't you? I think I'm good at my job. Something you never appreciated. You have no idea what you've done. Sterling is laying off 15 people because of your little revenge scheme. That hit me harder than I expected. 15 people losing their jobs because of decisions that started with my firing. Richard, those layoffs aren't because of me. They're because Sterling built a business model that depended on taking credit for other people's work. When your best people leave, clients follow them. This isn't over, Avery. Yes, it is. You fired me, remember? You don't get to control what I do next. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. Noah appeared in the hallway looking concerned. Everything okay? Mr. Halgrim just threatened me. Threatened you how? He's claiming I'm violating a non-compete agreement and stealing clients. But you said your lawyer. My lawyer says I'm fine legally, but that doesn't mean Halgrim won't try to make trouble. As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Melanie. Avery, I just got a very strange call from someone at Sterling. A Mr. Halgrim? He said you were operating illegally and that I should reconsider working with you. My stomach dropped. What did you tell him? I told him that my business relationships are my choice, and that if Sterling had valued their employees properly, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Avery, this man sounded unhinged. I think you should document these interactions in case things escalate. The following Monday, I received a certified letter from Sterling's legal department demanding that I cease all business activities that violated my fiduciary duties and contractual obligations to the company. I called my lawyer immediately. This is harassment, Jennifer told me after reviewing the letter. They're trying to intimidate you with legal threats that have no basis in fact. Can they actually sue me? They can file a lawsuit, but they won't win. And honestly, Avery, I think they're making a bigger mistake than they realize. What do you mean? By putting their accusations in writing, they've created evidence that could support a wrongful termination claim. If you can prove they fired you to prevent competition, you might have grounds for a lawsuit of your own. The thought of suing Sterling had never occurred to me. I'd been focused on building my new business, not fighting old battles. I don't want to sue anyone, I said. I just want to do good work for clients who appreciate it. That's admirable, but you should know that you have options if they continue to harass you. That afternoon, Jenna called with news that made my day. You're not going to believe this, she said, barely containing her laughter. Mr. Halgrim hired a private investigator to look into your business activities. He actually did it? Oh, it gets better. The investigator's report came back today. Apparently, everything you're doing is completely legal and ethical. There's no evidence of client poaching, contract interference, or any other wrongdoing. So I'm in the clear? Better than that. The investigator's report also noted that your former clients left Sterling because they were dissatisfied with service quality, not because you recruited them. It's all documented now. I sat back in my chair, processing this information. Mr. Halgrim's investigation had actually vindicated me while creating evidence that Sterling's client losses were due to their own failures. There's more, Jenna continued. The board of directors got a copy of the report. They're asking some very pointed questions about why the company's best account manager was fired right before the biggest client exodus in company history. What kinds of questions? The kind that might get VPs demoted. For the first time since this whole saga began, I felt like justice might actually be served. 2 weeks later, I was working late in my home office when I got a call from an unknown number. Miss Monroe? This is Patricia Kellerman from Sterling's HR department. I hope you don't mind me calling after hours. Patricia was the HR representative who'd been in the room when I was fired. Hi, Patricia. What can I do for you? Actually, I was hoping we could meet for coffee. I may be leaving Sterling soon, and I wanted to discuss some concerns about employment practices that I think you should know about. What kind of concerns? I can't discuss specifics over the phone, but I believe there are patterns of behavior that violate our company's stated HR policies. We met the next morning at a coffee shop across town. Patricia looked nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder. Patricia, what's this about? It's about systematic employment practices that I think are problematic. Avery, I've been documenting patterns for months as part of my regular compliance reviews. She pulled out a legal notepad with handwritten notes. I can't share internal documents, but I can tell you what I've observed. Your termination followed a pattern I've seen with other high-performing employees who developed strong client relationships. Other employees? 3 people in the past 2 years, all top performers, all terminated shortly after receiving recognition or developing close client relationships, all replaced by less experienced employees who were easier to control. That sounds like a discrimination pattern. That's what I'm concerned about. I've been keeping my own notes during my compliance reviews, and I think there's a systemic issue with how senior management handles employee development. Patricia pulled out a business card. I'm planning to file a complaint with the Department of Labor about these practices. My lawyer says that former employees who were affected might want to be aware of the investigation. You're filing a formal complaint. As an HR professional, I have an obligation to report patterns of potential discrimination. What happened to you was just the most recent example. I stared at the business card. Patricia wasn't offering me stolen documents. She was telling me about a formal investigation into Sterling's employment practices based on her professional observations. Patricia, why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that what happened to you might not have been an isolated incident. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in Sterling's main conference room, facing 5 members of the board of directors. It was surreal being back in the building where I'd worked for 8 years, especially under these circumstances. Miss Monroe, said the chairman, a distinguished man in his 60s named Robert Chen, thank you for agreeing to speak with us. We're trying to understand the sequence of events that led to the loss of several major clients. I'm happy to help however I can. Let's start with your termination. Can you walk us through what happened? For the next hour, I told them everything. The Employee of the Year award, the meeting with Halgrim, the immediate termination without cause. I showed them the emails Patricia had given me, and I explained how my relationships with clients had developed over years of attentive service. Miss Monroe, said another board member, did you actively recruit these clients after your termination? No. Melanie Drew called me 3 days after I was fired. She'd tried to contact me at Sterling and was told I no longer worked there. The other clients reached out after Melanie mentioned that I was available for consulting work. So Sterling's clients sought you out, not the other way around? That's correct. Robert Chen leaned forward. Miss Monroe, in your opinion, why did these clients choose to follow you rather than stay with Sterling? I thought carefully about my answer. I think they valued personal relationships and attention to their specific needs. Sterling is a great company with talented people, but the corporate structure sometimes makes it difficult to provide the individualized service that smaller clients need. What about Mr. Halgrim's management style? I'd prefer not to comment on personalities, but I will say that there were philosophical differences about how to manage client relationships. After the meeting, Robert Chen walked me to the elevator. Ms. Monroe, you've handled this situation with remarkable professionalism. Many people in your position would have been vindictive. I'm not interested in revenge, Mr. Chen. I just want to build something positive. I respect that, and I hope you know that Sterling's loss is the industry's gain. As the elevator doors closed, I saw Mr. Halgrim watching from his office doorway. He looked like a man who knew his time was running out. 2 weeks later, Sterling announced that Richard Halgrim had been reassigned to special projects and would no longer be serving as VP of Client Relations. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenna as I sat in my new office, a real office, with employees and everything. Did you see the news about Sterling? I looked up the article she'd sent. The headline read, Sterling Marketing Group acquired by global agency giant. The article mentioned that the acquisition was necessitated by significant client losses and internal restructuring challenges. 6 months after my firing, Sterling had been forced to sell to a larger company to survive. That's a shame, Noah said, reading over my shoulder. A lot of good people worked there. Most of them will probably keep their jobs with the new owners, and hopefully they'll have better leadership. I looked around my office. 5 employees, 3 major clients, and a 6-month waiting list for new business. Monroe Marketing Solutions had grown beyond anything I'd imagined when Melanie first offered me that contract. Any regrets? Noah asked. About leaving Sterling? None. About how it all happened? I thought about that. I regret that other people lost their jobs. I regret that it took a crisis for Sterling's board to address problems that had been building for years. But I don't regret standing up for myself or building something better. My assistant, Sarah, appeared in my doorway. Avery, Melanie Drew is here for your 3 o'clock meeting. Send her in. Melanie walked into my office with her usual energy and confidence. She'd been instrumental in helping me grow the business, referring clients and providing strategic advice. How does it feel to be running your own agency? She asked, settling into the chair across from my desk. It feels like I should have done it years ago. What stopped you? Fear, I think, and loyalty to a company that turned out not to be loyal to me. Well, their loss is our gain. Speaking of which, I have something to discuss with you. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a contract. Drew Cosmetics is launching a new subsidiary focused on sustainable beauty products. We need a marketing partner who understands both luxury brands and environmental responsibility. I looked at the contract. It was for twice the amount of our current agreement. Melanie, this is incredible, but are you sure you want to put this much business with one agency? Avery, 18 months ago, you were managing my account at a company that took you for granted. Today, you're running an agency that puts client success above everything else. That's not luck. That's integrity. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This new brand is going to be challenging. We're entering a crowded market, and we need strategies that are both innovative and authentic. I smiled. I love a good challenge. I was hoping you'd say that. 1 year after my firing, I was reviewing quarterly financial reports when my assistant Sarah knocked on my door. Avery? There's someone here to see you. He says he's from Sterling Marketing Group. My stomach tightened. Did he say what he wanted? He said it was regarding a business opportunity. No. I walked to the lobby and found a man I didn't recognize. Young, probably early 30s, wearing an expensive suit and a nervous expression. Miss Monroe? I'm David Martinez, the new VP of Client Relations at Sterling. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Mr. Martinez, what can I do for you? I was hoping we could discuss a potential partnership between our agencies. I stared at him. A partnership? Sterling has been acquired by Global Marketing Partners, and we're restructuring our approach to client services. We're looking for boutique agencies to handle specialty accounts that require more personalized attention. And you thought of Monroe Marketing Solutions? Actually, several of your former clients specifically mentioned your agency as an example of the kind of service they prefer. The irony was almost too much to handle. Sterling wanted to partner with the agency I'd built after they fired me. Mr. Martinez, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure a partnership makes sense. May I ask why? I chose my words carefully. Monroe Marketing Solutions was founded on the principle that client relationships should be personal and authentic. I'm not sure how that would work within a larger corporate structure. What if the partnership allowed you to maintain complete creative control and client interaction? What if we were essentially referring clients to you while providing back-office support? You're talking about subcontracting. I'm talking about recognizing that different clients need different approaches, and that sometimes the best service comes from smaller, more focused teams. I had to admit, the proposal was intriguing. Sterling's corporate resources combined with Monroe's personalized approach could be powerful. I'll need to think about it, I said. Of course. Would you be willing to meet with our executive team next week? Let me review some materials first, and I'll let you know. After he left, I sat in my office trying to process what had just happened. The company that fired me was now asking to work with me. But more than that, they were acknowledging that the approach I'd been advocating, personalized, relationship-based marketing, was actually what clients wanted. A week later, I found myself back in Sterling's conference room, but this time as the CEO of my own company. The dynamic was completely different. I was there as an equal, not as an employee. The new executive team was impressive. David Martinez, the VP I'd met earlier, Jennifer Walsh, the new creative director who'd been hired from a top-tier agency in New York, and most surprisingly, Robert Chen, the board member who'd led the investigation into my firing. "Miss Monroe," Robert began, "we want to start by acknowledging that Sterling made serious mistakes in how we handled your departure." "I appreciate that, Mr. Chen. We've learned from those mistakes, and we want to build something better. That's why we're interested in this partnership." David pulled out a presentation folder. "Here's what we're proposing. Monroe Marketing Solutions would become Sterling's premier boutique partner. You'd handle accounts that require high-touch, relationship-based marketing. We'd provide infrastructure support, research resources, and access to specialized services you might not have in-house." "What would that look like practically?" "You'd maintain your own offices, your own staff, your own creative process. But you'd have access to Sterling's media buying power, our research department, our international capabilities." Jennifer leaned forward. "We're essentially admitting that the corporate agency model doesn't work for every client. Some clients need what you offer: personal attention, customized strategies, direct access to decision makers. And you think a partnership addresses that?" "We think it could be revolutionary," Robert said. "Imagine combining your relationship-building approach with our corporate resources. Both companies would be stronger." I looked around the room at these executives who were essentially asking me to help them fix the problems that had led to my firing. "I'm interested," I said finally, "but I'd need certain guarantees." "What kind of guarantees?" "Complete creative control over campaigns, direct client relationships without interference, and a contract clause that prevents either party from attempting to poach employees or clients from the other." David smiled. "We'd expect nothing less." "There's one more thing," I said. "I want Jenna Brooks to be my liaison with Sterling's corporate services. She understands both companies and both approaches." "Jenna Brooks? She's one of our marketing coordinators?" "She's one of your most talented marketing coordinators, and she's been ready for a promotion for years." Robert made a note. "Consider it done." As I left the meeting, I realized something remarkable had happened. The company that had fired me for building client relationships was now asking me to teach them how to do exactly that. 6 months after signing the partnership agreement, Monroe Marketing Solutions was thriving in ways I'd never imagined. The combination of our personalized approach with Sterling's resources had created something unique in the industry. "This is incredible," Jenna said, looking at our quarterly numbers. She'd accepted the liaison position and had quickly become one of my most valuable team members. "We're up 400% from where we were this time last year. It turns out clients really do want personal attention and corporate resources." "Who would have thought?" she said with a grin. My phone rang. It was Melanie Drew. "Avery, I just got the preliminary numbers from our sustainable beauty launch. We exceeded first quarter projections by 150%. "That's amazing news." "It's better than amazing. It's proof that the approach you've been advocating actually works. Personal relationships, authentic communication, strategies that serve the client instead of the agency." I never doubted it would work. I just needed the right opportunity to prove it. Speaking of opportunities, I have news. The Beauty Industry Association wants to feature our partnership as a case study in their annual conference. They want you to present on relationship-based marketing. I almost laughed. 2 years ago, I was a fired employee. Now I was being asked to speak at the industry's most prestigious conference about the marketing approach that had gotten me fired. I'd be honored to speak at the conference. There's something else. Rebecca Martinez and James Park want to co-present with you. Apparently, the success all three of us have had with Monroe Marketing has caught the attention of other CEOs. Co-present about what? About how small agencies can deliver results that big agencies can't. About how personal relationships drive business success. About how firing good people is the worst marketing strategy a company can have. That last comment made me smile. When is the conference? Next month. And Avery, the theme is the future of marketing. Seems appropriate, don't you think? After hanging up, I looked around my office. From fired employee to conference keynote speaker in less than 2 years. It felt surreal, but it also felt earned. My assistant knocked on my door. "Avery, Noah is here to take you to lunch." Noah appeared in my doorway with flowers and his usual supportive smile. How's the marketing revolutionary today? He asked. Grateful, I said, and a little overwhelmed by how much has changed. Good changes, though. The best changes. Noah, do you remember what you said the night after I got fired? That they just gave someone else the opportunity to hire the best marketing person in the city? You said that everything happens for a reason, and that maybe this was the universe telling me to build something better. I was right, wasn't I? You were completely right. The Beauty Industry Association conference was held at the Grand Resort in Miami, with over 1,000 attendees representing the biggest names in cosmetics, skincare, and beauty services. As I stood backstage waiting for my presentation, I felt the same nervous energy I'd felt when accepting my Employee of the Year award 2 years earlier. But this time was different. This time, I was speaking as a successful business owner, not as someone else's employee. Ladies and gentlemen, the moderator announced, please welcome Avery Monroe, CEO of Monroe Marketing Solutions, along with Melanie Drew of Drew Cosmetics, Rebecca Martinez of Natural Beauty Solutions, and James Park of Luxe Skincare. The applause was enthusiastic as we walked onto the stage. The presentation room was packed with additional attendees watching via live stream. 2 years ago, I began. I was an account manager at a large marketing agency. I thought I understood the industry and my place in it. Today, I'm here to share what I learned when everything I thought I knew turned out to be wrong. I told our story, the firing, the client loyalty, the decision to start my own agency. But more importantly, I talked about the business philosophy that had made it all possible. Marketing isn't about campaigns or creative awards or agency profits, I said. It's about understanding what clients need and delivering results that matter to their businesses. When you put client success first, everything else follows. Melanie took the microphone next. 2 years ago, I was working with an agency that treated me like a revenue stream. Today, I'm working with a partner who treats my business like it matters. The difference in results has been extraordinary. Rebecca and James shared similar stories. Frustrations with large agencies, the relief of finding a marketing partner who actually listened, and the business results that followed. The question isn't whether small agencies can compete with large ones, Rebecca said. The question is whether large agencies can learn to compete with the personal attention and authentic relationships that small agencies provide. During the Q&A session, a woman in the audience stood up. Miss Monroe, what would you say to marketing professionals who are afraid to leave large agencies because of the security and resources they provide? I'd say that security is an illusion if you're not valued for your contributions, and resources are meaningless if they're not used to serve client success. Sometimes the biggest risk is staying in a situation that doesn't appreciate your potential. Another audience member asked, what advice would you give to agencies that want to improve client relationships? Listen more than you talk. Measure success by client results, not agency profits. And remember that business relationships are personal relationships. Treat clients like partners, not sources of revenue. After the presentation, we were surrounded by attendees wanting to discuss partnerships, job opportunities, and business advice. But the conversation that meant the most to me came from a young woman who approached as the crowd was thinning. Miss Monroe, I'm an account coordinator at a large agency, and I've been thinking about starting my own consultancy. Your story gives me hope that it's possible. It's absolutely possible, I told her. But make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, to serve clients better, not just to be your own boss. How do you know the difference? If you're motivated by what you can build rather than what you can escape, you're probably ready. 6 months after the conference, I was working in my office when Sarah announced that I had a visitor. Someone from the Beauty Industry Association, she said. She says it's about an award. A woman in her 50s entered my office, carrying an elegant wooden box. Miss Monroe, I'm Catherine Walsh, president of the Beauty Industry Association. I wanted to personally deliver this to you. She opened the box to reveal a crystal award, engraved with Marketing Innovation Award, Avery Monroe, Monroe Marketing Solutions. This award recognizes marketing professionals who have significantly impacted the industry through innovative approaches and exceptional results, Catherine explained. I stared at the award, thinking about the crystal trophy I'd received as Employee of the Year just 3 years earlier. Miss Monroe, your presentation at our conference has sparked conversations throughout the industry. Several major agencies have reached out, asking for guidance on implementing relationship-based marketing approaches. I'm honored by the recognition. There's something else. We'd like to offer you a position on our board of directors. The industry needs leaders who understand that client success should be the ultimate measure of marketing effectiveness. A board position with the industry's most prestigious organization. 3 years ago, I would have considered this the pinnacle of professional achievement. Catherine, I'm incredibly flattered, but I need to consider how it would fit with my current responsibilities. Of course, take all the time you need. After she left, I sat holding the award and thinking about the journey that had brought me here. From fired employee to industry award winner in 3 years. My phone rang. It was a number I recognized but hadn't heard from in over a year. Avery? This is David Martinez from Sterling. I hope you're well. Hi David, what can I do for you? Actually, I'm calling with some news. The partnership between Sterling and Monroe Marketing has been so successful that Global Marketing Partners wants to expand the model. They're offering to acquire Monroe Marketing Solutions for a significant premium. I felt my heart rate increase. Acquire us? You'd maintain operational control, but you'd have access to Global's international network and resources. It's an opportunity to scale relationship-based marketing globally. How significant is the premium? When he told me the number, I had to sit down. It was enough money to never work again if I chose not to. David, that's an incredible offer, but I need to discuss it with my team. Of course, and Avery, Global specifically mentioned that they want you to lead their new relationship marketing division. You'd be teaching other agencies how to do what you've built at Monroe. After hanging up, I stared at the award on my desk. 3 years ago, Mr. Halgrim had fired me because he was threatened by my client relationships. Now a global corporation wanted to pay me millions to teach their entire network how to build exactly those kinds of relationships. That evening, Noah and I sat on our balcony overlooking the city, discussing the acquisition offer over a bottle of wine we'd been saving for a special occasion. It's life-changing money, Noah said. You could retire at 35 if you wanted to. I don't want to retire. I love what I do. Then think of it as validation. A global company wants to pay you millions because your approach to marketing actually works. I thought about my team. 5 employees who'd believed in my vision and helped build something meaningful. Jenna, who'd left Sterling to join Monroe full-time. Sarah, who'd grown from an administrative assistant to operations manager. What if the acquisition changes what we've built? What if Global tries to turn relationship-based marketing into just another corporate process? What if they don't? What if this is your chance to influence how marketing is done globally? The offer includes guarantees about operational independence and my role in leading the new division. So what's holding you back? I thought about that question. Fear, I think. Fear that success will somehow corrupt what we've built. Fear that money will change my motivations. Babe, you turned down 3 job offers from major agencies last year because they weren't the right fit. I don't think money has ever been your primary motivation. He was right. I'd built Monroe Marketing Solutions because I wanted to prove that client relationships mattered more than agency politics. The acquisition offer was validation that this approach could work on a much larger scale. There's something else, I said. If I accept this offer, I want to do something meaningful with the money. Like what? Like starting a foundation that provides marketing services to small businesses and nonprofits who can't afford traditional agencies. Like creating scholarship programs for marketing students who want to focus on ethical business practices. Noah smiled. Now you're thinking like someone who deserves a global leadership position. The next morning, I called David Martinez and accepted Global Marketing Partners' acquisition offer. But more importantly, I called my team and assured them that Monroe Marketing Solutions would continue to operate exactly as it always had, with client success as our only metric for achievement. I stood in the conference room of Global Marketing Partners' New York headquarters, looking out at 30 agency executives from around the world who'd come to learn about relationship-based marketing. A year ago, I began, Global acquired Monroe Marketing Solutions, not because we were the biggest agency, but because we had the highest client satisfaction scores in the industry. Today, I want to share what we've learned about building businesses that clients actually want to work with. The presentation went well. Questions were thoughtful, engagement was high, and several executives approached me afterward with specific plans for implementing similar approaches in their markets. But the conversation that meant the most came during the coffee break. Avery? I turned to see a familiar face, Patricia Kellerman, the HR representative who'd helped expose Mr. Halgrim's misconduct. Patricia, what are you doing here? I'm Global's new Director of Talent Development. I focus on helping agencies build cultures that retain good people instead of driving them away. That's perfect for you. It's perfect because of what I learned from your situation. Watching talented people get pushed out because they threatened someone's ego was a wake-up call. How are things at Sterling? Much better. The new leadership team has completely changed the culture. They actually promote people for building client relationships now instead of punishing them for it. After the conference, I flew back to my home office, where Monroe Marketing Solutions continued to operate as a semi-independent division of Global Marketing Partners. How did the presentation go? Jenna asked as I settled back into my familiar desk. Really well. I think we're going to see some interesting changes in how Global's agencies approach client relationships. Any regrets about the acquisition? I looked around my office. The same team, the same culture, the same focus on client success, but now with resources to make a global impact. None, I said. Sometimes the best way to stay true to your principles is to find a bigger platform for sharing them. My phone rang. It was Melanie Drew. Avery, I have news. Drew Cosmetics just signed the biggest retail partnership in our company's history. Our new partner specifically mentioned that they chose us because of our reputation for authentic marketing and genuine customer relationships. That's incredible. It's proof that what you've been preaching actually works at scale. Authentic relationships, honest communication, and client-focused strategies aren't just nice ideas, they're competitive advantages. I never doubted it. I know you didn't. That's why you're successful. Speaking of which, Forbes wants to interview you for a cover story about the future of marketing. Forbes? Really? Really? The story is about business leaders who are changing entire industries by doing things differently. As I hung up, I thought about the journey from fired employee to Forbes cover story. 3 years of proving that doing the right thing isn't just ethical, it's profitable. The Forbes interview was scheduled for the following week, but first I had something more important to attend to. The grand opening of the Monroe Marketing Foundation. Using a portion of the acquisition proceeds, I'd established a nonprofit that provided free marketing services to small businesses and funded scholarships for marketing students from underrepresented communities. Today, we're not just opening a foundation, I said to the gathered crowd of business leaders, students, and community members. We're proving that success creates responsibility. The responsibility to lift up others and share the opportunities we've been given. The Foundation's first class of scholarship recipients was standing in the front row. 5 students who demonstrated both academic excellence and commitment to ethical business practices. Miss Monroe, one of them said during the Q&A, what advice would you give to young marketers who want to build careers based on integrity? I'd say that integrity isn't a limitation, it's a competitive advantage. Clients can sense authenticity, and they choose to work with people they trust. Build your reputation on delivering results that matter, and the rest will follow. After the ceremony, I was surprised to see Robert Chen, the former Sterling board member, approaching me. Avery, congratulations on the foundation. This is exactly the kind of leadership the industry needs. Thank you, Mr. Chen. What brings you here? Actually, I wanted to tell you something. Sterling's transformation over the past 3 years has been remarkable. The client retention rate has improved dramatically, employee satisfaction is at an all-time high, and revenue is growing steadily. I'm glad to hear that. The changes started with the investigation into your termination. Your situation forced us to examine our entire approach to talent management and client relationships. In a way, you helped save the company. I never intended to hurt Sterling. I just wanted to build something better. You did both. Sometimes forcing organizations to confront their problems is the greatest gift you can give them. As he walked away, I reflected on the irony of the situation. The company that fired me for being too close to clients had become successful by encouraging exactly that kind of relationship building. My phone buzzed with a text from Noah, watching the foundation ceremony online. So proud of you. Can't wait to celebrate tonight. I looked around at the students networking with business leaders, at the small business owners learning about marketing strategies, at the community coming together to support entrepreneurship. This was what success looked like. Not just personal achievement, but the ability to create opportunities for others. 5 years after being fired, hours after winning Employee of the Year, I sat at my office preparing for the Forbes photo shoot. The magazine had asked me to pose with the original Employee of the Year trophy, alongside my Marketing Innovation Award and a photo from the foundation's grand opening. It's a nice contrast, the photographer said. The journey from corporate employee to industry leader to community builder. As we set up the shots, I thought about everything that had led to this moment. A firing that felt like the end of the world had actually been the beginning of everything I'd accomplished since. Miss Monroe, my assistant Sarah, called from the doorway. Melanie Drew is here for your lunch meeting. Melanie walked in, looking as confident and energetic as ever. Over the years, she'd become not just a client, but a genuine friend and mentor. Ready for your magazine debut? She asked. As ready as anyone can be for a Forbes cover story. You know what I love about this? She said, picking up the Employee of the Year trophy. They gave you this award for being an excellent employee. But what they didn't realize is that they were actually recognizing someone who was destined to be an excellent entrepreneur. I never saw myself as entrepreneurial back then. Because you were too busy being loyal to a company that didn't deserve it. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to remarkable people is getting fired by unremarkable leaders. We laughed about that, but she was right. Mr. Halgram's insecurity and poor judgment had freed me to build something that aligned with my values instead of just my paycheck. Melanie, can I ask you something? When you first offered me that consulting contract, did you think it would lead to all this? Honestly, I thought I was helping a talented friend transition between jobs. I had no idea you'd end up transforming an entire industry. I didn't transform anything. I just proved that treating clients well is good business. Exactly. And now that revolutionary concept is being taught in business schools and implemented by agencies worldwide. The photographer finished the setup and called us over for the shots. As I posed with the symbols of my professional journey, I thought about the woman who'd walked into that conference room 5 years ago to be fired. She'd been devastated, confused, and scared about the future. She'd had no idea that the worst professional moment of her life was about to become the catalyst for the best professional journey she could have imagined. Perfect, the photographer said. I think we got the shot. As Melanie and I headed to lunch, my phone rang with a call from an unknown number. Miss Monroe, this is Jessica Chen, a marketing coordinator at Premier Agency Group. I just read about your foundation in Forbes, and I was wondering. I've been thinking about starting my own consultancy, and I could really use some advice. I smiled, remembering my own desperate phone calls to potential mentors years earlier. I'd be happy to talk with you, Jessica. Are you free for coffee next week? Yes. Thank you so much, this means everything to me. As I hung up, Melanie grinned at me. Another future entrepreneur? I hope so. The industry needs more people who put client success first. The industry needs more people like you. The industry needs more people who aren't afraid to get fired for doing the right thing. We walked out into the sunshine, and I felt the same sense of possibility I'd felt 3 years ago when I'd first decided to start my own agency. Except now, instead of building just my own future, I was helping build a better future for an entire industry. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting so successful that you can afford to help others succeed too. And sometimes getting fired is just the universe's way of telling you to stop working for someone else's dreams and start building your own. I got fired hours after winning Employee of the Year. So I took their biggest client with me.